What is up? I miss you guys. Welcome to the docket where we're going to give you just facts. Now, I'm going to let you know right on the front end. I am at a hotel in Houston. I may have absolutely brutal, even worse than my house Wi-Fi here. So if it's choppy or if I'm breaking up, I'm going to be looking in the chat. You all have to let me know. Obviously, I very much want to talk about what's going on, but I'm traveling. So, if it's a situation where the connection's too shitty, I'll have to crush it and end it. But I'm going to do the best that I can. I don't have a huge amount of time. I wanted to get this done now before, I started meeting with people out here. So, big day, big couple of days in the case that never sleeps. And I missed y'all. I just wanted you to know. Allison and I had a blast on our cruise. It was exhausting. And then, of course, she celebrated her 50th on Tuesday. So I've been busy with, my personal life, but I have missed all of you so much. How is it? How's the connection so far? Am I glitchy? Sound okay? The sound's going to be bad. This is a kind of a boxy room. There's no carpeting, so it's going to be echoey. I missed all you guys too. I really did. I'm glad I got to hang with Jay a little bit this morning and go through the openings over in the James Crumbley case, which is going to be a banger. Jay and I are going to be dual covering that trial. I think it's a very important trial, not just for the trial itself and getting justice for the kids, but long term, it's got the same ramifications. And if they can get both these parents, for acts that their kid had, done outside of their presence on homicides, on convictions, on homicide statute stuff, it's huge. And it's going to change the way that law enforcement and the prosecutors are dealing with parents and their kids that do really, really screwed up shit. So it's a big one to watch, and I'll be back Monday. So Jay and I will be hanging together, which is always an awesome combo. I might be a little biased, but I think we complement each other very well. I think we make for some pretty damn good content. So if you guys aren't watching that trial, you should be. And if you are watching it, you should be watching with us. I'll just say that flat out. I can't imagine that there's anybody that's going to be more informative and more entertaining than Jay and I. But, what do I know? All right, so let's get right to it. So huge day yesterday. We got I think it was yesterday. It might have been the day before. I think it was yesterday. Right here. And this was filed. Let's see what date it was. It looks like I can't read it. It looks like it was the 6th. Yeah, it looks like it was yesterday. So very short, very sweet motion for early trial. Now just understand that in Indiana, this is the equivalent of what we would call a speedy trial demand in Illinois. This is notice to the court, to the state, that Richard Allen, by and through his counsel, has moved for an early trial within 70 days pursuant to Criminal Rule 4B1 of the Indiana Rules of Procedure. So what that means is that this trial has to be set within 70 calendar days. It's not, you don't get weekends off. It's 70 calendar days. And Gull's going to have to set it. This is not one she can deny. This is constitutional. She is going to have to set a trial date. This puts an unbelievable amount of pressure on McCleland and Luttrell. An unbelievable amount of pressure on them. And, we had talked about this. I did not know what the position of Baldwin and Rosie would be with respect to filing this once McCleland had filed his motion for sanctions. That was just something that I didn't know how the interplay would work. This is what I was hoping that they would do. because what this does is it turns the tables, and it turns the tables back on McCleland, and it puts a huge amount of pressure on both McCleland and, frankly, Judge Galt, both. This thing's got to be ready to go in 70 days. The only exception that could buy some time for McCleland is if there's another defendant out there on Gull's call who has priority over Allen, meaning that he or she was arrested prior to Allen being arrested, and that person has a speedy demand that has been filed, or a 70-day. So if there happened to be another defendant, and I probably should have asked Dizzy just to go on to Gull's docket, and I probably would have had that information. Now that I've said it, I'll probably have it in 5 minutes. But so that in that situation, if there was a defendant that had been arrested prior to Gull, prior to Allen, and he had filed, or he or she had filed a speedy, that would be one of the only situations wherein the trial date could get pushed a bit, and it would have to get, because that case has priority, if they're in custody. And I should always say that, if they're in custody. So that's it. And what a speedy trial demand means is, once this date is set, short of the defense filing any motions that could cause a delay of the trial, like a major motion to dismiss, or a major motion which is already pending, like we already have that out there, still don't know if that's being heard, still have no idea what the second hearing is on the 18th. I mean, I'm going to be there, so I'm going to let you all know. Like, I'm going to have to, Allen County is a huge courthouse, so but she's not allowing any kind of, obviously live tweeting or anything like that in the courtroom. So obviously I'll have to be outside of the courtroom in order to get information to y'all. But I'm sure that I'll do a live that night and give you guys every detail, every detail conceivable. And so, but if they file a motion like that, which would in theory cause the trial to need to be delayed a bit, they call it that it tolls the statute, that it's on the defense's clock, meaning that if the defense files motions that could potentially cause a delay, that counts against the defendant. Okay. And that can buy them some time down the road. Okay. So those are the only two circumstances in which this thing is not going to start in mid-May. So we have just fast forwarded this trial from October until mid-May. And I just want to be clear. This is not a motion that Gull can deny. This is notice. This is notice that they're giving their 70-day trial demand. She's going to have to set a trial date, like it or not. And I'm here for it. And Baldwin and Rosie are here for it. And I'm assuming that their client is here for it. And I just want to tell you that sometimes speedy trial is used as a strategy, like leading into it, where you're trying to force the state into some kind of plea offer of significance, or you're trying to, really catch the state off guard, but you don't intend on actually going to trial, or you're trying to get them to turn over discovery that they're slow playing. There's a lot of different reasons that defense attorneys use speedy demands, or not waiving the speedy trial demand in order to get the state to do things. So, I mean, we do use it as a sword many, many times. Now, what's happening here? Now we know this ain't a sword. They're using this as a shield to protect Richard Allen's rights. and they want to go to trial, and now they're going to trial within 70 days, and it's going to be a banger. It is going to be a banger. I'm trying to figure out, I'm obviously going to be there covering it, which means I could be away from my family for extended periods of time, unless I rent an Airbnb, and my kids got to go to school. So I don't know. It's a thing, but I'm very much anticipating it. So that's the 70-day. And there was a lot of things in play with this. So when McCleland filed his motion for the sanctions, and then Baldwin and Rosie turned around and filed their motion to dismiss, and we then find out that at that point that McCleland had accessed attorney work product between Andrew Baldwin and Westerman via their text messages to each other that were discussing trial strategy and other protected attorney-client or attorney work product. And that's verboten, and I was pontificating back then and trying to, work it out in my mind, whether or not it would make sense for them to file. And if you guys watch my lives, like my history of where I've been on this and what my theory is on the leaks and on everything else has been out there. It's out there, and I'm going to repeat it tonight because the filings today that were filed both by McCleland and additionally by Baldwin and Rosie were pretty bombshell. But with respect to those earlier filings, my opinion was that, number one, it may have made it impractical or impossible for Baldwin and Rosie to be able to prepare for a trial within 70 days, because I was waiting. As soon as they were reinstated, I was anticipating that they would be filing something in very short order in terms of that 70-day. They had to bide their time. They had to see how this was going to play out. They had to see if any more discovery was coming in, because it plays against both sides. Like a 70-day is also putting an immense amount of pressure on Baldwin and Rosie. It's not just McCleland. So they have to feel secure in the fact that McCleland, number one, is not going to be ready, at least not to the extent that he would otherwise be prepared for a trial, say if he had till October or if he had until later. Now I want to be clear. One thing that can happen, even though there is this 70-day speedy demand, is that they can run it up all the way up towards when trial's supposed to start. And they could turn around, they being the defense, and they could turn around and say, okay, well, you know what? We're going to waive it. And then set the trial date. And then Gull would most likely probably just kick it back to that October date that's already set. I don't think that's happening. I don't think this is some kind of play. I think that they think that McCleland is not ready to go to trial and that the case that he has is shit. That's what I think. And I don't think that they're willing to give McCleland and law enforcement any more time to try to dig shit up. So what I believe is going on is this thing is going to trial in mid-May. And like I said, it's going to be a banger. And it's unfortunate. It's not going to be streamed. There's going to be no cameras. To me, it's probably the most fascinating procedural case I've ever seen. And I think it's a real shame that America and the world is not going to get to watch this thing unfold, because it is a veritable cornucopia of legal issues that are novel and that really haven't been seen. And it's going to be a spectacle. And I feel sad for all of us as trial observers and lovers of true crime and everything that comes along with it, that we're not going to be able to watch it. I am, because I'm going to be in the courtroom, but y'all aren't. You're gonna have to live vicariously through me. But I'll give you just facts. I'll give you the straight dope on that. And I'm going to do it daily. I'm going to let you all know what's going. I mean, it's obviously not as good as being able to stream it, but I'm going to do as much as I possibly can to keep you all informed as exactly what was going on. So I'm not seeing it is the signal okay? Am I choppy? Do I sound all right? I mean, I'm not seeing it like a bunch of hysterical stuff, like it's real bad. So, all right. Okay. So we've got the 70-day in place. All right. And then the next thing that was filed was this. Okay. And this is a filing. It's actually the third filing by McCleland, seeking to get a hold of Richard Allen's medical records, but specifically his mental health records. So he wants everything from the prison. He wants everything from anything that may have happened with respect to any kind of mental health treatment he has received. I'm assuming post-arrest and pre-arrest. I'm not going to read through this whole thing because for the most part, it's substantially similar to the first two that were filed. It really starts off with him saying that, this is the third request for Allen's medical records, specifically his mental health records. He then basically cuts and pastes the probable cause affidavit, so we've got several pages of that. He has added things to it, which I am going to read to you guys a little bit. And he basically states that, and I do want to, and mostly because the kind of the thrust of his argument with this is relating to the confessions, the so-called confessions, which we haven't heard, and anybody who is of the mindset, incorrectly so, that the defense's main goal in filing the lengthy 136-page memorandum, not so much the motion itself, but the memorandum, was to get their theory of defense out to the public 100%. And I ain't, why can't they? The state always gets theirs out. And it's called a probable cause affidavit. If you have a problem with there being an even playing field in terms of both theories, and that's what they are, you guys know, I've told you 1,000 times, state wasn't there when the crime was committed. Liggett, Holman, Carter, none of them were there when the crime was committed. Nick McCleland wasn't there when the crime was committed. So what they have is a theory of a case. And what the defense put forth in their memo was a theory of the case. So we have two theories. That, in the scales of justice, to me, just, it evens it out. You can think that the Odin stuff is a bunch of bullshit. It doesn't matter. And you can think that, like I think that the PCA, that they, the evidence that they have on that is weak as shit. It doesn't matter because it's just theories. Everything has to wait to trial. That is entirely my point. You never will see me making videos trying to solve this case based on the limited information and evidence that we've been exposed to, because none of us know. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of your time if you're watching it. It's a waste of your time if you're preparing it and making that content. We don't know. The only time we're going to know what they have and when they don't have is at trial. That's it. I have spent zero of my time trying to figure out if Richard Allen either committed or didn't commit this crime. All I can say is, based on the evidence that I have seen in the PCA, they better have more. That's been my position from day one, and it's never changed, not one bit. Okay, it didn't change when McCleland made the move in open court back in June to puke out the fact that Allen had confessed. It's the same shit that state's attorneys all over the country use all the time. They wanted that in the papers. They wanted that in the press. They wanted the public to know that Richard, because him confessing had nothing to do with the safekeeping motion that was filed that day. That was McCleland just sneaking around the gag, which he's always accusing Baldwin and Rosie of doing. The dude does the same shit, and this thing that's going on the 18th, the disclosure from the defense, which we'll go through, is going to be, it's going to be a thing. The disclosure that Baldwin and Rosie just filed today basically names every creator that has been making content and names a vast majority of them as witnesses. And I'm going to get to it because it was a thing. I was actually on the plane when it dropped. I'm happy to say I didn't get summoned by Brad and Andy. I was happy about that. I think that some creators may think that it's like a boon to their online profile. I don't quite see it that way. I was very happy that I was not summoned by McCleland. I was thinking like Baldwin and Rosie wouldn't have to call me, but McCleland might. But you know what? I stick to the facts. I don't speculate very much. I basically stick to the pleadings, explain them to you guys. And the only theories I throw out there are why Gull kicked them off the case. And my theory is still remains that once Baldwin and Rosie informed the court and Nick McCleland that they were going to be filing the speedy trial demand as soon as she granted their motion for a discovery deadline, which she did November 1st, that they were ready to go to trial, which meant that they were going to go to trial January 8th, that both of them shit their pants. And at that point, it became incumbent upon both of them to try to figure out a way to get rid of these two guys, because getting rid of these two guys is the only way that was going to ensure that this could never go to trial January 8th, because of the fact that new attorneys would have to have time to prepare, period. It's that simple. It's not a complicated, it's no big conspiracy. It's common sense in terms of a judge who had done nothing on her docket with respect to setting anything for hearings. She had, by her own admission, not even gotten through the memo. She hadn't gotten through anything with respect to the exhibits. And 3 months from the time that they were talking about doing it is the blink of an eye. Like, no, they were not going to be ready. The only way to stop that train and get it off the tracks was to remove those two guys. And that's exactly what happened. And my position with respect to the leak has always been, who benefited from the leak? Who benefited most from the leak? I think the answer is very clear. I think that Nick McCleland benefited more than anybody else from the leak. It bought Nick time. And again, I have no idea what kind of lawyer Nick is. He could be an amazing litigator. What I do know is he's inexperienced in terms of trying cases from the prosecution side. I know that he has never tried a murder case, and I know that he has never tried anything from either side that comes even close to the magnitude of this trial. What I also know is that Nick McCleland has a massive amount of pressure on him from everybody on the law enforcement side of this. Everybody is looking at him and saying, you better get this done, sucker. You better get it done. We gave you all that you need. You better get it done. Nick McCleland is under more pressure than anybody on the planet right now. And his sphincter just shrunk to the point where he's making diamonds up in there, because once that 70-day came down, you'll never know. We'll never know unless I can climb into McCleland's mind, is if this motion for sanctions was merely to publicly shame Baldwin and Rosie, or if it's his hope that they're going to get removed again. And to address that, I mean, I suppose because she does whatever she wants to do, that Judge Gull could remove them again for information that has already, like, he hasn't put anything new forward, like, at least that I'm aware of. Like, short of them coming up with some kind of information, credible information, that Andrew Baldwin directed Westerman to take that the discovery out of his office and disseminate it. Short of that, I can't, like, everything else is the same. Like, everything, which would then mean that Westerman lied in his affidavit. I mean, who are you to trust? And the only thing that I can tell you from a defense attorney's perspective, and I've done this for 20 plus years, you know this, there is, and I've said this on repeat, there is zero benefit to the defense putting out photographs of young women who have lost their lives in such a violent fashion to the public. All that does is enrage the public and make them want to fry the guy who's behind bars awaiting trial. That's all it does. There is zero upside to it. This whole concept of, like, oh, well, we wanted people to believe the Norse pagan shit was real. Bullshit. That ain't a thing. No defense attorney's doing that. That once it got out, it served its purpose. It changed the dialogue of the case. That's all it needed to do. And there's the people that thought it was absurd, fairy tale, fantasy, fiction, whatever the case may be. It changed the narrative of that case, and it served its purpose. There's going to be people that think it's legit. There's going to be people that think that it's bullshit. Either way, it evened the playing field. It really did. So any argument as to Andy Baldwin doing that intentionally is, to me, absurd, and it's insulting. It really is. And the bottom line is, again, who benefited from that? It sure the hell wasn't Baldwin and Rosie. That I can tell you. All that did was run them off the rails. They were looking to go to trial. Nick McCleland, at this point, he'll have bought himself 5.5 extra months with that move, because this thing was going to trial January 8th. He bought himself 5.5 months. And you know what he decided to do with a good bit of his time? Is this bullshit that's coming on the 18th. His public shaming or his attempted public shaming of Baldwin and Rosie. So I don't know. I think that his time would have been better used, maybe preparing for the underlying trial, trying to get justice for the girls. I mean, that would seem like that would have been the right thing to do, but what do I know? All right. So, like, I want to go through this. Stevie, if you can get to, I believe it's go to page, it looks like 7 of 18, maybe. Sorry, y'all, I don't have my normal setup, so I'm having to use my iPad to scroll through this thing. Actually, start upon, it looks like start at the end of page 6, the bottom of page 6, and blow it up some, like, make me smaller so the people can read it. Please, and thank you, by the way. And thank you for my mods. No notice per usual. I always forget to thank you guys at the end of my lives, and just know that I love you so much. I could not do this without you. And wait, what are you talking about? What's your new memo from Hennessy? Did Hennessy file something while I was getting off the airport? I do love you, mods. You guys know that. Like, never take from me not telling you that I love you as me not loving you, because I love you very, very much. And I'm so grateful to all of you, every single one of you. All right. So Stevie, can you make me smaller, dude? No one needs to see my grill. Make me smaller. Blow that up, please. I want the people to be able to look at it. I'm going to start reading it while Stevie makes it a little bigger. So this is at the bottom of 6, and this really kind of relates to why McCleland's asking for Alan's mental health records. Okay. And typically, those are protected by federal law, our medical records. Okay. So that's why he has no right to them. Now, if the defense had brought forth a mental defect defense, such as insanity, he would obviously be able to get access to the records in order. He has to be able to prepare for trial. As of right now, there is absolutely no mental defect defense in play. What there is, and what McCleland is arguing, is that there is this concept of the defense that Allen was in mental distress at the time that these alleged confessions take place. Now, again, and I say alleged, he definitely said something. What it is, I don't know. How it sounds, I don't know. We're all going to have to judge that when we get to hear him. And that's all I'm saying. Like, anybody saying that they, that's in stone, he confessed it, that's bullshit. Like, just like, we need to hear it. If Richard Allen on these things is going on and on and on and giving details about the crimes, then he's done. Then that's what I consider to be a true. If he's talking about facts that only the killer would know, he's done. And that's a real confession, because we know that law enforcement did not take a run at him, like beyond the conversations that we know existed. So, if he made some kind of statement in jail that contained facts that aren't in the public, which in this case there is nothing, but if they're things that only the killer would know, and he says it, then there's a real problem. Now, considering the fact that Baldwin and Rosie have now set this for trial on a 70-day date, I have to believe that these are not the type of confessions that I was just talking about. I think these are going to be, oh, and I did it, I killed the girls type, like it's some kind of, we just have to hear the context. We have to hear all of it. And we have to also understand and you can believe it or you cannot believe it. I honestly don't give a shit whether or not whether you believe what I'm saying is true. We know that Richard Allen was never alone in that prison, that he was shadowed by one of those two Odin patch wearing guards everywhere he went, including during his attorney-client meetings when Baldwin and Rosie were trying to have private counsel in order to prepare for trial with their client. They were still lurking. So you can be assured that every phone call that Richard Allen made, whether it be on his tablet or on a phone, we know that it was recorded, that those guards were standing right next to him. And that's all I'm going to say about it. And were they causing him to be under duress? Were they coerced? I have no idea. I wasn't there. But what I do know is that these two Odin patch wearing motherfuckers were standing right next to him. And I'm anxious to hear it. I'm anxious to hear what the confessions sound like and what he says. All right, so I'm going to go again. I'm starting here at upon Richard M. Allen's arrival to the facility, and they're talking about Westville first. He was placed on a suicide watch because of certain statements that he made about harming himself. Throughout his stay, his mental health improved to the point that he was taken off, quote, suicide watch. He was also participating in recreation time and beginning to exercise. The facility reports that he was doing well and that they had no issues or concerns. His day-to-day demeanor was that he was quiet. He read a lot of books, did crossword puzzles, and exercised daily. On April 3rd of 2023, Richard M. Allen made a call to his wife, Kathy. In that phone call, Richard M. Allen admits several times that he killed Abby and Libby. Investigators had the phone call transcribed, and the transcription confirms that Richard M. Allen admits that he had committed the murders of Abigail Williams and LibertGermane. He admits several times within the phone call that he committed the offenses as charged. Okay, so his wife, Kathy, ends the phone call abruptly. Okay, now I keep hearing other creators talk about multiple phone calls. And this would seem to belie that fact. This would seem to put that statement by whoever keeps saying that there were multiple phone calls to his mother, to, that he made confessions to mental health or just physicians in the jail, like, if McCleland had that, he would have stuck it in here. If he had made all kinds of admissions to me, like the way this reads, unless somebody's got a filing by the state, I'm going to take it as that there was one phone call and that's it. Like I'm going to reject everything else until I see somebody provide me a filing from the state that there were multiple phone calls. This reads to me as if this was one phone call that this took place. So soon after, attorneys for Richard M. Allen filed an emergency motion to modify the safekeeping order. In that motion, the defense states that Richard M. Allen's mental state has declined because Westville Correctional is unfit and that he should be moved. Defense also makes allegation that his mental health has declined to the point where Richard M. Allen has been deprived of his constitutional right to assist in his defense of this case. Further, defense alleges that his mental capacity has declined because of his incarceration at Westville Correctional Facility. Defense has also challenged that his treatment is unconstitutional. Soon after, investigators were made aware by the warden of Westville that Richard M. Allen began to act strangely. So Richard Allen was wetting down paperwork that he had gotten from his attorneys and eating it. He was refusing to eat and refusing to sleep. He would go, and remember, there's no proof of this other than some bullshit that the warden said. So as much as they wanted to give Rosie and Baldwin shit for the warden coming up and saying that the allegations that they were saying was untrue, we have no proof that this happened, that he's wetting his paper and eating it. Like none. This is some warden who would never, ever admit that they're torturing prisoners. Like, can you imagine a world in which a warden is going to get on the stand and say, well, yeah, of course we torture them. They're horrible people. Yes, we torture them. It's never happening. Like the warden got up there and said exactly what I thought he would say, which is, of course not. We would never torture our prisoners. We treat them like the kings that they are. That's how they're treated at Westville Prison. So, you know, I mean, like maybe he was eating it. I don't know. But we have to take everything with a grain of salt, don't we? I think that we do. From both sides, not just from the defense, not just from the state, from both sides. We have to take this is a game of chess right now that's being played by two different players. And we have grandmasters in Baldwin and Rosie, and we have a neophyte in Nick McCleland. And that's just facts based on experience. Baldwin and Rosie have 50 years experience and have tried hundreds and hundreds of cases, including murders. These guys are not buck rookies. These guys know what they're doing. These guys are good attorneys, like legitimately good attorneys. These guys are going to blow your hair back at trial. You are going to see the difference between a seasoned attorney and a neophyte attorney. And I'm talking trial attorneys when this trial goes down. Like you're just going to see it with your own eyes. I don't need to open my big mouth. You'll see it with your own eyes. Like trial observers would be like, damn. You know, I mean, this is going to be one of those types of trials. You know, like I've said it before. I do not envy Nick McCleland. You know, I really don't. All right. So that he was refusing to eat and he was refusing to sleep. He would go days on end. And this is allegedly after Rick had confessed on this phone call. Okay. So he went from making up 2 phone calls a day as of April 3rd to not making any phone calls at all. To date, Richard M. Allen still has not made a phone call since April 3rd of 2023. On April 14th, 2023, Richard M. Allen was evaluated by 2 psychiatrists and 1 psychologist to discuss it. Of course, these are state employees. You understand that, right? These aren't independent psychiatrists and psychologists. They're state employees. So naturally, the psychologists and they were discussing whether his turn in behavior and whether or not there was a need for involuntary medication, and that the panel would also discuss moving Richard M. Allen to a different facility that had a psychiatric unit. From that meeting, it was determined that Richard M. Allen did not need involuntary medication and that he did not need to be moved to another facility. Since that meeting, Allen has began to eat again and has begun to sleep. His behavior there's a typo there. I think it's his behavior has begun to return to what it was prior to making the admission on April 3rd, 2023. Investigators believe the information that Westville Correctional and Wabash Valley have gathered since Allen was placed in those facilities is important to the investigation, important for trial. Further, any records of his mental exams will be most important to determine the state of his mental health when he made the admissions. This information is needed to refute the defense's allegation that his mental health is in question. The evidence is also necessary to refute the allegations of diminished mental capacity and or other possible defenses. It may be important as the state introduces additional evidence gathered, including additional admissions. Here you go. There it is. Including additional admissions made by Richard M. Allen himself. So there it is. There's our additional admissions. I asked, and now I got it. So we'll have to see. I'm dying to know what those are. So based on probable cause for the charges, defendant has been held in the Carroll County Jail. He's transferred, blah, 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 blah. All right, I'm going to skip through this because there's one part of this that I want to get to. Because I'm going to unfortunately have to cut this short. I am going to go live again tomorrow because there's a lot to discuss. I'm going to either try to get Kara and or Shay. I'd love to get Michael on here. I don't know if he'll be willing to. He's kind of gun shy about coming on lives. But I want to get some some gunfighters on here with me. So this is the thing that was really interesting to me out of this entire filing, that really kind of blew my mind. And it basically says, so McCleland's going through his argument as to why he should get the records. He says, then again, in the defense's motion for an order on continued disclosure of the defendant's mental health records filed on June 7th, where defense writes that they need his mental health medical records because of his currently deteriorating state, both mentally and physically. Then again, in their memorandum in support of the accused motion for the Franks, filed in September, where the defense writes on April 3rd that his mental health began a steep decline. And then the defense expressed concern that Richard Allen is being treated unfairly or is being placed in condition that resembles a prisoner of war. The state has filed a motion for leave in the past to obtain these records, and the defense objected to said motions. This is the part. So, Stevie, I'm on, this is the part. The defense has now filed a verified ex parte motion. An ex parte motion means that it is filed without the other side being privy to it. Okay, that means that in a lot of times, like we've often file our motions for, we're asking the state for money for experts, which is exactly what they're doing. Ex parte, because it's none of the state's business what our trial strategy is, just like it's not the defense's business what McCleland's trial strategy is. Now, at some point, once they get their witnesses, their expert witnesses retained, and they start preparing reports, that's got to be turned over. But in terms of trial strategy, and in terms of them not showing McCleland their hand early, that's why it's filed ex parte. That means it gets filed under seal and only the judge sees it. And the judge can decide whether or not she's going to hear it ex parte. Many times the judge would tell us, nah, I'm not going to hear it ex parte. So we just be like, all right, well, are you going to give us funds? Like, we're not going to disclose it. We're not going to put it on the record. We're not going to say what our strategy is in front of the state. So this is the way it reads. So that's what an ex parte motion is. So Nick McCleland has put in a filed pleading that the defense has now filed a verified ex parte motion for hearing on funding for expert services. Within that motion, now he's citing a motion that he had no business, and it is completely unethical for him to be looking at this ex parte motion. I mean, the questions become, well, let me finish it. Within that motion, the defense asked the court to approve funding for Dr. Polly Westcott, goes ahead and names the defense's potential expert, which I'm sure all the creators out there on the state side I've already started doing lives about her, which, I'll hold my tongue on when I think of that. Who's a clinical psychologist and a confession expert. The defense states that he's now quoting the motion that he has no business or authority to be looking at. It's an ex parte motion. He quotes, the defense states the conclusion to be drawn from this is that there is a reasonable basis upon which to inquire into the impact of the accused confinement on his mental state. This can only be done by an expert in the field of impacts of solitary confinement on accused individuals, end quote. It is clear from this statement and other affirmations made in the motion that the defense intends to challenge the multiple confessions that the defendant has made while incarcerated. Further, it is clear the defense intends to make the defendant's mental health an issue in this matter. In order to address this, the state needs to review the defendant's mental health records and have an opportunity to consult its own expert. The state concedes that the defense has not filed any kind of insanity defense or other defense on behalf of Richard Allen, but their repeated allegations have made the defendant's mental health at issue. The defense has now brought Richard Allen's mental health into question again in their most recent filings when they requested the funds for an expert. For these reasons, the state is requesting Allen's records. All right. So this, I don't know if this is worse than when he obtained the attorney work product. I don't know if it's the same level of unethical, but the fact that he put this in a pleading when it's an ex parte motion, which I don't know how he got it. I don't know how the man got it. You want to talk about a leak? How did he get it? It's under seal and it's ex parte. Now, the people that I converse with, the Karas of the world, the Sleuthies of the world, they are all befuddled how this came to get into Nick McCleland's hands. Now, there was some guy that was tweeting who I've never heard of, who really doesn't cover Delphi, who said that Indiana Supreme Court somehow sent this out. Or if it wasn't this one, it was an earlier version. So I don't know how he got it. And he's going to have to answer for it. And the question, and I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again, I had been calling for either McCleland to recuse himself and have a special prosecutor appointed, or the judge to do it, because they both have the ability to file that motion to have a special prosecutor appointed, as do Baldwin and Rosie. My position with respect to that has been that I firmly believe that if I'm Baldwin and Rosie, I'm actually concerned about removing McCleland for two reasons. Now, at this juncture, there's a 70-day date. If you remove or ask for McCleland to be removed, you now have to deal with the prospect that it's your motion and it's going to toll the clock, meaning that the trial is going to get delayed because the new prosecutor will have to be given an opportunity to get up to speed on the trial. So, and that's the way that would shake down. The other reason that there has to give the boys pause on this thing is that what happens if they appoint a highly qualified, highly competent special prosecutor? Like, that's, again, I don't know how Nick McCleland tries his cases. I do know, again, what I've said already. He's inexperienced. He's never tried a murder as a prosecutor. He's never prosecuted a murder case. He doesn't have the kind of experience. And when the lights are shining on him as intensely as they are going to be in this, like, the biggest gift that Gull could ever give him is not having this thing televised. Believe me, that is No one is happier than Nick McCleland about that decision by Gull. No one. Baldwin and Rosie are begging for it to be televised. That should tell you all you need to know. And McCleland is not. And that should tell you all you need to know. You take from what you want. Like sometimes you just got to read the tea leaves, y'all. You know, I deal in common sense and I deal in my experience as a trial lawyer in terms of kind of reading between the lines here. And this thing, you know, so if I'm Baldwin and Rosie, I think that's the answer as to why they didn't file the motion to have a special prosecutor appointed. I mean, I think if they had their druthers, they'd rather have this guy trying the case than taking a chance that ultimately some highly efficient, highly effective, incredibly well-prepared, competent, experienced special prosecutor takes over the case to where it changes things. You know, it's like, I don't know. I think from their perspective, that had to have been part of the conversation. It certainly would be if Allison and I were trying this case. Like, it would 100% be part of the conversation. Like, do we want Nick off this case? I mean, probably not, based on what we've seen thus far. All right, so there's that. All I've got time for, Stevie, can you pull up? I want you, like, I'm not going to handle I want to handle the disclosure. I don't want to, the extension's good. The extension of time by Baldwin and Rosie is good. I'm going to do a live tomorrow night on that. I'm going to try to get home and do it before Steve and Dan go on Feral Friday. I think my plane gets in early enough to be able to do that. Or maybe I'll go later. Maybe I'll go after the boys. And I've been seeing, like, hey, y'all, can you guys throw these things up on so people are getting love? I'm not going to have time for shout outs and answer questions. But like, I want to thank all of you so much for your generosity here, for all the gifted memberships. It's amazing. It means so much to me. It really does. And I'm so grateful to all of you for doing that. So you guys throw that up here. So the thing that I do want to go through real quick. I mean, I needed 3 hours. Like, this is like a 3-hour live. But like, I've got plans tonight that I cannot blow off. So like, this is just one of those things that I have to do tonight. So, but this disclosure by the state, whew. So it's something. It's something else. If you guys haven't seen it, I don't think I tweeted it yet because my plane was landing, so I wasn't able to. My Wi-Fi shut off on the plane, so I wasn't able to get it up. But it's something else. It's a thing. It is a thing. All right. Let's see where we're at. All right, hold on, Stevie. You have that thing? Is that up? Is that it? I can't read it. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. All right. I'm going to have to pull it up on my phone. Sorry, y'all. Again, not my normal setup. So you're just going to have to deal with what it is. All right. Okay. I don't know. Like, okay. Let's see. All right. Bear with me. Okay. All right. I'm gonna just read this right here. Let me airdrop it to my iPad. Okay. Okay. All right. So the other thing that came out today was just mind-blowing, really. And it was just this crazy thing that was filed by the defense. As you know, McCleland has been asking for disclosures by the state, or by the defense rather. He's like, I deserve to know. I have to know who they're calling for this hearing. I want to know. And so the defense went ahead today and they filed the list of additional witnesses and exhibits for contempt hearing. Come now, counsels for attorneys Baldwin and Rosie, and notifies the state and the court that in addition to all the witnesses and exhibits previously disclosed, he may call the following witnesses and offer the described exhibits. Witnesses Stephen Wood, Angela Sadlowski, Julie Melvin, Terry Williams, Courtney Parsons, and Matt Hoffman. So a majority of those folks are creators. Angela and Courtney are both part of the unraveling. Julie Melvin is adjacently related to the victims, or one of the victims. Terry Williams, I have no idea who she is. Matt Hoffman is the private investigator for Baldwin and Rosie. So the exhibits, communications between Gary Bodette, aka Fig Solves, and Prosecutor McCleland. Multiple communications between Fig Solves and Prosecutor McCleland. Communications from Bodette about Prosecutor McCleland. Anthony Greeno's YouTube episode titled Crime Nation, Delphi Murders, watch and review. 4, Rick Snay on True Crime Investigates. Baldwin email to McCleland regarding Professor Turco report. Bodette's communications with Angela Sadowski. Bodette's YouTube regarding Delphi investigation. Remember, that's Fig Solves. I've never watched any of his stuff. Bodette's communication regarding court staff revelations. Bodette, it's communication regarding disqualification of defense counsel. 10, documentation of the relationship between Bodette, Fortson, and Cohen. Those are 2 of the leakers. 11, Bodette sending defense work product to McCleland. 12, Bodette sending information to McCleland. 13, Bodette identifying source in Delphi investigation. 14, Bodette posting, resending information regarding sending information to McCleland. 15, Bodette posting relating to digging dirt on Baldwin. Bodette posting regarding working with law enforcement and prosecution. 17, Bodette email asking, I'm sorry, I would definitely want to read this one correctly. That one says, hold on. Bodette email of McCleland asking Bodette to delete everything. Barbara McDonald on Court TV with leaked investigation information. McCleland email to defense regarding Professor Turco report. 19, leaked search warrant affidavit prior to unsealing. 20, Sergeant Holman communications with Terry Williams and or the secret keeper. 20, YouTubers Frank Meister and Sleuth video. YouTube, The Inquisitor True Crime, claiming leaked communications from Rick Allen. 21, Terry Williams posting about inside information of crime scene in the investigation. 22, October 22, 2022, YouTube video of Bodette discussing his knowledge of a bullet at crime scene and knowledge that a gun was found at Rick Allen's house when that information was still under seal and a week before it was unsealed. 23, email exchange between Judge Gull and attorney Rosie regarding accidentally misdirected email. 24, Baldwin email to Judge Gull, 10/9/23. 25, list of media dissemination by state actors. 25 again, typo. Julie Melvin documents. 26 in a YouTube entitled A Reckoning in Carroll County. That was done by girls, the Unraveling girls, but I think it was actually Angela, and I think their little production company is called R&M, I think. On or about February 29th, 2024 and March 1st, 2024, the defense received an anonymous call from a woman in Texas claiming to have approximately 240 pages of leaked documents and agreed to provide them. The defense has received only a few of those documents, all of which appear to be available to the public. The defense also discovered information from the prof claiming that he had delivered 2 pounds of documents to the Indiana Attorney General. The defense is continuing to investigate that claim, which may result in additional exhibits. So there you go. I don't know. Sounds a lot like leaks from the state. I'm just going to say this one more time, and I've been saying this long before this filing. Who benefited from the leak? Who benefited from the leak? And what happened right there is that Baldwin and Rosie, who, believe it or not, have been trying to play, despite what all these other people on the other side talking about, like, these guys are scumbags, they're horrible people, blah, 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 blah. All that shit, have been trying to play this thing above board. They really have. They have now entered the gladiators arena. They have entered the game. They are now doing what Nick McCleland has been doing for months and months and months. They're doing the same shit that McCleland has been doing to them, and bravo. Because you know what? I've been asking for this. I wanted to see this. I want them digging in to what the real source of this leak was, because when you look at who benefited, you got to try to dig it out. And that's exactly what they're going to try to do. This thing on the 18th, y'all, whoo, I might have to camp out. I can't not get in the courtroom on that date. That's going to be one for the ages. And, the thing that makes me feel the best about all of this is that we're going to have a trial set. They're going to have this rodeo. They're going to have this circus, whatever you want to call it. And it's Nick's circus. Make no bones about it. Don't be pissed because the defense is fighting back. Nick wants to do this. He's going to get all he can handle. This is going to be a two-way street on the 18th. I'll tell you that. This shit's not just going one way towards Baldwin and Rosie. This shit's going to be flinging both ways. It is going to be a shit fest, a shit flinging fest, where shit is going to be flung both ways. All the participants are going to be like head to toe covered in shit, and we'll see who ends up the shittiest. If I'm Nick, so the question then becomes, will the defense actually call these creators, all these different creators, to the stand? Or is this a move to show Nick, hey, man, this is what we're coming with, dude. You may want to reel that thing back in. I mean, is this a move by the defense? One thing I'm certain of is if McCleland decides to go forward on this thing, and he can always retract the motion. He can always just say, Your Honor, I'm going to pull that motion. We're no longer moving forward on it. That's his absolute right to do so as the state's attorney. He does not have to proceed on it. But one thing I know is if he goes forward, these guys are going to be coming at him, and it's going to be a hell of a hearing. All right, y'all. I'm sorry it's a little shorter than I would have liked, but please check in tomorrow. There's so much to talk about with this thing. There's so much to talk about, and I want to be able to answer your questions. So I plan on having a much longer live tomorrow night. I'll give you all some more notice than I did today. I gave you all no notice per usual. To all those with the super stickers, Meg P, and always giver Amanda, thank you so much. $2 hollow, appreciate you, JK. And for all those that you have gifted memberships, thank you so much. I will name you on the next one. Well, I'll just do it now. Lily B, Jay, thank you much, brother. Jen, Hope A Fear, thank you so much. Ginny Trioli, thank you so much. Hope A Fear again with another 5. Adam Malone, $2 hollow. Love you, man. Thank you so much, brother. Jen, gifted 10. Just an always giver, always giving to the people. Lily B, gifted 5. Thank you so much. Dawn Burke, an always giver. Lily B's an always giver too. And then another 5 by Jen. Dawn, not to be outdone, gives another 5. And then Jedi. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for your generosity. I know this might leave you wanting a little more, but I wanted to get at least something out of it. I can't help that I have this to do. I hope that I got enough out there. If you have not subscribed to my channel, to Allison and I's channel, please do so. We are going to bring you great content. We're going to bring you, for the most part, I'm definitely pro defense on the Delphi case, but for the most part, I'm very, very objective. Like this one, I'm very concerned about what's going on in Delphi. So it's not, this isn't, I think that Richard Allen is innocent or guilty. I'm not even talking about that. What I'm talking about is this procedural thing that's been happening for 6 months has been a nightmare. That's like, if you like, my proof is in my pudding. Like this is in me. Like I said, I think that PCA sucks. I think if they're going to convict Allen, they better have a hell of a lot more evidence than they have or that they've shown us. And they might. I don't know. I have no idea. What I can tell you is that I feel that he's been guaranteed another bite at the apple, meaning another trial by the shit that Gull has pulled. So if that happens, you can thank your judge on this case for why it happened. So, all right, y'all, I love you. I'll let you know tomorrow. Again, thank you, mods. You're the best in the business. I adore you. Make sure everybody's checking out Jay tomorrow. He's going to be streaming Crumbley. He's my trial partner on that. He's carrying the banner for us tomorrow because I'll be busy, and then I'll be back with him on Monday. So if you're not subbed over at Jay's, make sure you do. It'll be a great time. You know, he usually has some drop-ins. I'm trying to get Allie to do it, but her girlfriend's in town from Colorado. So I love you all. Peace like chicken greens.